Shall I do it again? Are we live?
I think we are.
Are we live? Right, Assalamu alaikum everyone. We are live. Welcome back to the second episode of Let's Talk with IMAH, live here on Al Hikam Media's YouTube channel. First and foremost, please go and subscribe to our Let's Talk with IMAH podcast channel. So it's just Let's Talk with IMAH. Type that in. The media team will put the link in the comment section, in the live chat. Please subscribe to that channel. We've had one video removed due to violating community guidelines. We might have another one today. So just go over there and check it out. Inshallah, tonight we're going to be talking about Islamaphobia. We're going to be talking about freedom of speech. We're going to be talking about all the other subjects and topics. Obviously, I'm joined by Didi and Soldier Was. Didi has turned up in his Manchester United t-shirt today.
Repping Pogba today, not Ozil.
Today he's repping Pogba, and we've got Was, who's quite blue and
Repping Khyber Pakhtunkhwa.
yeah, he's come all the way from Peshawar with his hat.
Your buttons
So-
so, pop as well.
Oh, well, that's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa then, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's nice of you guys to join us again, and let's start. Freedom of speech. There's huge discussions every so often about this topic, about what is freedom of speech. Do we have the right to say what we want to say, how we say? How has it come about? Recently we've seen in the media the issue with regards to the drawing of caricatures, those depicting al-i'adhu billah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Do people have the right to do this? This is all what we're going to discuss, and I think it's important to understand that, to begin with, that the Freedom of Speech Human Rights Act, which was documented in 1998,
Yeah.
it mentions in there that we all of us have the right to say what we want to say, to express what we want to express. I mean, if I was to actually read out what is said in regards to the law on free speech under Article 10 of the Human Rights Act in 1998, everyone has the right to freedom of expression. But the law states that this freedom may be subject to formalities, conditions, restrictions, or penalties as are prescribed by law and are necessary in a democratic society. So, if we was to break that down in a simple nutshell, we can say what we want, we can express anything as long as it doesn't go against the law.
Or we can say what we like, but we might be penalized for it.
And we might be penalized for it. So my argument is going to be, we're saying that you have the freedom of expression and speech. You can say what you want, but is it really freedom?
No, it's blurred lines, that's what it is. It's not knowing. It's them telling us is naming it freedom of speech, but it's not freedom of speech. Because they've limited it to what they want.
We've seen it recently as well with a lot of celebrities. The Nigeria thing happened, the NSAS, and a lot of the mainstream celebrities were putting it up on their Instagrams, and they got removed straight away. The comments were getting removed. The post would get removed because it was about NSAS. So, got microphone issues here. Hang on.
Yeah, just move it back a little.
There
And up.
and up.
More.
Can
But
you hear
don't
me
bring
now?
it close to your mouth.
Can you hear me?
Can everyone hear him clearly, yeah?
Well, they're not going to answer this, are they?
No, they'll be able to hear him, it's fine. It's fine.
But they will comment in the live chat.
That's true as well, yeah.
So if it's like this, just
His
here.
freedom of speech is getting blocked.
It did in the first episode, that's why everyone's going to speak more now.
There you go.
But yeah, I was saying that you can see with the celebrities, a lot of their posts are getting removed, a lot of their comments are now getting removed. So where is the freedom of speech? Even them, that there's obviously terms and conditions within the freedom of speech.
I think we've got freedom of speech to the extent where it starts becoming an issue for the wider community. But the problem is it's biased. What is an issue for us in our community as Muslims, as Pakistani, whatever culture you're part of, you realize that freedom of speech only becomes an issue when it's somebody who's not from that community that does that speech. So for example, I'm a Pakistani British Muslim. So a Pakistani British Muslim says something, Number one, it's not going to be as bad as if he wasn't from that community. Number two, even if it was said
No,
from
no,
them.
I know what you're saying. I know you're looking at it from your perspective or from a perspective of being a British Pakistani from Bradford. We say something, it gets highlighted more than say somebody in London or in Sussex or in Surrey or somewhere where it's a posh white area, for example. That, not necessarily. You know, I personally believe we're always quick to say, oh, just because he's a Paki and he said it, that's why, you know, he's been picked up on that point.
No, but that
not necessarily.
No,
not necessarily.
What I mean is, if I say something against Pakistanis, everybody's going to understand, even if it's against them, they're going to look at it from the approach that this guy might have a point if they're Pakistani. But if I say something about a white person, they're going to look at it as in it's targeted and it's negative. The same way is if a white person says something against a Pakistani, I'm going to be more offended and my barriers are going to be higher because he's not from my community.
Well, let's just go to America, because America, a lot happens. The Black Lives Movement, what's been happening recently with George Floyd, what happened before then in Ferguson and in other parts of America where the rights of black people are violated, police brutality and stuff like that. That's happening there. When we look at that and we see the rights of black people and how they infringed, do they have the right to say what they want to say? Because now media is showing brutality against black people, there seems to be a level of people being cautious now what they say about the black community, the Hispanic community. Do you get my point?
I understand, yeah.
It's because but prior to that, it was people could get away with loads of stuff. They could use the N-word. Now the N-word is frowned upon.
But
it's like a black guy can use the N-word. But if we use the N-word, then all of a sudden, it's frowned upon. But a black guy can use that.
Yeah,
now
it's
using
with each
the
community.
N-word generally now. You know, if somebody was sat on CNN News, an anchor, a news report anchor, and
a black one or just
anyone,
okay,
and use the N-word, would he not get sacked?
Of course he would.
Would he not be suspended?
Of course he would.
He would have to apologize.
Yep.
Isn't this what happened to Jeremy Corbyn with his anti-Semitic remarks?
There's a
But
difference.
because it's anti-Semitic, that's why.
No, but that's because it's recognized.
Yeah, some are more highlighted
Yeah,
more
but how
than
can-
others. So of course, some are highlighted more than others. I think there was recently somebody was done over. I can't remember who exactly for using the word coloured. Right?
Yes, the
Yeah.
FA.
I forgot his name, Greg
chairman.
Clark, I
Now
think his
it
name
was
Greg
hyped,
Clark.
but it wasn't hyped to the point where people lost their positions.
No, he did. He
He
resigned
did.
from his
He
position.
actually
straight away.
resigned from his position.
Within
But
2-3
He's
hours.
the head of the Football Association in England. He makes all the major decisions.
I think what Wasi's trying to say, there wasn't a lot of roller around it.
There wasn't a hype to it. But as soon as it comes down to anti-Semitism, and now don't get me wrong, I'm not targeting that, but I want people to understand. I want the viewers to understand, the people who are listening to this to understand that with each different kind of community that gets offended, we've got Islamaphobia. It's a label that is given to Muslims who get offended, or the ones that offend. Anti-Semitism for the Jews, white on white, black on black, all these kind of terms that come with it.
Xenophobia and other phobias that
When
are
it
out
comes
there.
to anti-Semitism, now what you just mentioned there about it being in politics and it being a news anchor, there's a massive difference on freedom of speech within professional environments and word on the street, urban languages,
Urban lingo and
people just talking on the street. Because what happens on the street is more for the common man. Yes, a news anchor might not use the N-word, but if you go to America, it's used so much within those communities. It's still used, but there's a massive difference. My point being is that anti-Semitism, the word anti-Semitism, is highlighted a lot more within the media.
I'll chime in there just for a second. I think it's because they're organized. They've gone to the top. They've said these are our laws.
we know what it is. You'll have jumped the convo and gone jump straight into anti-Semitism. We're going to come to that. You're right. You're absolutely right. Anti-Semitism and how it is, I agree with that. But what we're saying is that for those who are listening, those who are watching, who don't understand, this point is very important. Under the Human Rights Act, Article number 10, 1998, what it says about freedom of expression, it comes with this added condition that you have to beware as long as it's not against the law, not against any of this. You can say what you want. The moment you infringe the law, my argument here would be that we're saying it's freedom, yet it's a restricted freedom.
Where's the line though? That's what I want to know.
See, the line they're saying is it's the law. If the moment you start to offend a Jew, you've now, your freedom has been taken away. You can say anything, but so
where's the same for the Muslims?
There you go. Which is my point. We have the freedom to express. Anyone in this world has the freedom to express, but it's censored. There is limitations, there's restrictions. So it's okay for you to express what you want. But the moment you mention, for example, the Holocaust, or you mention events like this which have taken place in the past, which we condemn,
which are
we're
deep
against,
to people, yeah, of course. And,
absolutely outright wrong. This injustice and oppression and persecution that took place, in the concentration camps, we speak out against that. We're against any form of injustice like that. But if you was to mention that in a different light, all of a sudden this is now, you have your right to free expression is taken away. Why? Because you're now offending. You've now entered into offense. So when you start offending now, the important thing that we need to bear in mind here is that where's the line when it comes to offending people? Comedians, that's all they do.
See, somebody's just mentioned a very valid point, that, see, the act that we're talking about is British law. We cannot act against or speak against anything that goes against British law. But when we start hitting those worldwide platforms, and we're talking about comedians, and we're talking about politicians, and we're talking about YouTube stars, and we're talking about all these people, we can't contain it to UK law. Because we don't know what the law is in America in regards to this kind of stuff. Like you've just mentioned, Ahmad, that we can't talk about, for example, anti-Semitism or the Holocaust. There's no freedom there according to British law.
No, you can't talk about it, but you can't talk about it in a way, offensive way. And the moment you do that, what are you doing? You're now entering your basically your right to. So you don't really have a right. Effectively, you can say a certain amount. There's restrictions. There's limitations.
Who told us
to
we've
that.
got a right? You've got to go to that as well. They're telling us we've got a right. So what they're
they're
controlling what they're telling us.
That's the narrative that we've been fed.
No, that's what I'm
But
saying.
that's with
Though.
the
If they're
EU.
telling you got freedom of right, the person that's telling you he's got control over what freedom you've got then. Does that make sense?
See,
if I'm going to tell you, you can, you're going to do such and such a thing for me. I know what you're going to do for me. I know exactly what you're going to do. I know.
So who is that? Is that the
So
media?
who's governing that?
Who's
Who has
governing
put
that?
the
That's what I'm
laws in
saying.
place?
That was the.
But this is what I'm saying, Ahmad. The laws, this is the exact point that I'm making, that when it comes to the UK, the law is different to what it might be to somewhere else in Europe. It might be different to somewhere else in the world.
Well, I was reading in Switzerland that you're not the freedom to offend or say something against the LGBTQ community. You can't say it basically. You could be criminalized, penalized
For having an opinion
for
against
having
them.
a offensive opinion against that community.
That's in Switzerland.
In Switzerland, that's a law. That's passed.
But it's not in the UK.
But it's not in the UK.
So this is what I'm saying, that if we say something in the UK and it reaches Switzerland, they might get offended about something, even though we're perfectly fine to do it. In the same way I'm saying that somewhere else in the world...
Likewise in Pakistan, for example. You can say certain things in Pakistan which you couldn't say here.
Exactly.
But then when they translate it to here, people use this law to judge what they're hearing.
But my question is there a world law? Is there a world kind of, not even a law, a
The
policy?
Human Rights Act.
The
Human Rights Act is what they go by. The EU, the UN. They have the Human Rights Acts in there.
And they're
They've
setting the
written this.
minimums for each human,
And
basically.
this is how it should be. This is what you can say. This is what you can't say.
But what I'm saying is somebody decided that was governed by
But for
people.
for us, we're Muslims. What are we governed by?
God's
I'm going to
word.
go back to that. We are governed by the will of God, what Allah tells us to do.
And so when
we
it
go
comes
into
to
the
freedom of
Quran-
speech, in Islam, what are we supposed to do?
So there you go. Now Islam tells you that you shouldn't offend. You shouldn't. In the Quran, doesn't it say, if they swear at you swear at their gods, they will swear at yours?
What if you have to offend to defend your own?
You can never offend to defend though.
No, but Zaira, if I'm arguing,
That's a good question, that.
If
No,
I'm
but
arguing my
one
religion
second,
with
I'll
someone,
answer that for the second. Yeah, somebody would say offending to defending is a extremist, is a terrorist.
no. What I mean
'Cause he's
is,
gonna attack to
what I
defend.
mean is, for me to defend my own policies and procedures as a Muslim, my rights as a Muslim. If I'm explaining that to a non-Muslim and he's getting offended by it, it goes against stuff that he's learned that are part of his laws and his policies. Then, as a Muslim, to what extent can I go to? That's my question.
Well, we've got to be careful as well and interpret the Quran for today's day and age as well, I got to think. Because a lot of us, when we go listen
but
to
what we're
Maulvis,
saying, what your question is, that if sometimes you need to offend to defend. So the best form of defense is offense.
Yeah.
The best form of defending is attacking someone.
don't talk sports with Wasaima.
So if I'm gonna attack someone, that's me effectively defending.
Yeah.
But we're talking about speech here. Why would we need to go and attack someone in order to defend our point?
Yeah, but my question is when you say the word offend, does it only cover an attack? Because somebody could say something to me, I won't feel attacked by it, but I might feel offended by it to the extent where it goes against the law. Do you know what I mean? For example, actually, I won't give you an example just to be on the safe side, because I don't want to offend anyone. But my point being that I could make a very, very light-hearted comment to somebody of a certain religion, of a certain community, of a certain caste, of a certain persona themselves, something that they're affiliated to. And for them, it's for them to get offended. See, the word attack comes with its own kind of
Connotation.
Yeah, it feels very, very, I'm doing it purposely, I'm doing it maliciously. No, I mean having an open discussion, but you offend that person, you say something, you could question their religion, you could question their policies, but you're still offending them, but you have to do that in order for you to prove your point. So I'm saying, as a Muslim, can I do that?
We shouldn't offend people. As Muslims, we shouldn't be going around in order to prove a point to offend. Unless it's like you have the social norms. Do you understand? There's the social norms that we live in, that we are known by. So maybe the social norm is, in a social, now the N-word is becoming censored. Yet socially in the past, look at gangster rap. N-word is used. You can't have a gangster rap without the N-word being used.
But then they'll say, we're using it, we're allowed to own what we're using. Like me calling you a Paki, I'm a Paki, I can call you a Paki. Because I'm a Paki.
But white
I'm
guy,
owning that word.
redneck, he can't turn around and say that.
Yeah.
It's a relatable for each community, because if you looks at me now and he just used the word Paki, I'm not offended by that. But if the electrician walked in now as a white guy and just said, you're right, Paki,
There you go.
I would be offended by that.
See, that's the point. So in certain societies, words are acceptable by those same societies. But then when you delve into different waters, into a different community, it's not acceptable.
Yeah, but they'll say it's like being a culture vulture then, isn't it? You're just taking our culture for no reason. That's ours. We own it.
No,
We're
but
using it.
I think it's a fair thing.
We're just using it for the world, to
And
hear.
now, moving from culture, we're in a global culture.
Yeah, exactly.
We're in a global village.
Yeah, the social media, everything.
Some a point that I wanted to mention before was that, especially when it comes to Islam and freedom of speech and freedom of expression, etc., that stuff that's been happening in the past. When we come into this point, before 9/11 in 2001, before 9/11, it was quite different. In the 80s, before what happened in Iran, in the 70s, in the 60s, it was a lot more different to how the world is now.
Of course.
What was said then is so much different to what can be said now.
Yeah, because the rhetoric used then might have 10 meanings today.
And today, you see, it's just words, isn't it? And it's how it's perceived. Some may be offended by what's said.
Yeah.
Others may not take offense.
It's how you say things as well.
And the way I look at it is, and a good example is comedians. Just look at comedians, what they do. Their job is to offend. Their job is to mock. Their job is to ridicule.
And have a laugh about
it. And that's all it is. They're going to talk about the fat guy in the room. They're going to talk about the skinny girl.
I like how that's the first example that come to your
Sorry,
mind.
Wasman. I didn't mean to offend.
You're the only fat guy in this room, was?
But you get my point?
Yeah.
So they'll do that. And we're here and we're having this joke and laugh. So we're having We can have that joke with you. You know that. People use the dark skin joke with me. That I'm sort of dark, or he's brown, or he's. They say that all the time. Lads who I play football with, all of them, we all have this laugh between us. Okay, you can have a laugh, but then maybe the moment somebody goes to our parents, they've crossed the line here. Now you're offending me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I take that offensive. That ain't no joke, bro. You can't sit there and swear at my dad. You can't sit there and swear at my mum. But why? We're having a laugh. Do you get me? So
it comes to that limit in it. There's that limit for each and every person.
Humans, and this is why the Prophet ﷺ said, you know, that you shouldn't. Whoever swears, Sibabul Muslimi fusukun wa qitaluhu kufrun. Swearing at a Muslim is evil, it's bad. The Prophet ﷺ said, don't use vulgar language. The Prophet ﷺ said, speak good to people. You know, speak. Whoever believes in Allah Almighty, man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir fal yakul khayran aw liyasmut. Whoever believes in Allah on the final day, speak good or stay silent. This is telling you your rights as a human, that you shouldn't offend people with your speech. A Muslim is not offensive. It's not in the nature of a mu'min. In the makeup and DNA of a believer, he should not be somebody who offends.
So if you want to play it safe, do it the Muslim way, innit? Because we don't.
And I tell you straight, we do podcasts, right? I'm an imam. This is all I've ever studied in my life. All we ever do is read books, teach, preach. This is all we've ever done, right? I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna always give this view. This is always gonna be my view. I'm always gonna go back to who has rulership over us. Allah and His Nabi alayhi salatu salam, the Quran and the Sunnah.
See,
and when you look at that, and I think the world, I'm not saying we're going to sit here and we're going to get the world to accept the Quran and Sunnah because of our da'wah and our in the way we preach. No. But what I'm saying is those who are listening, that we have to go back to what is said here.
I get that. You know, on that point, in your position as an imam, yeah. So I'm from the common people. I've not studied the deen, nothing like that. But for us to, and we've seen in recent years the kind of targeted attacks, whether they were verbal, whether they were physical, that we've been under ourselves, and the kind of rhetoric that's, you know, followed with our religion. And obviously we know how everything's been, whether it's in England, whether it's been in Pakistan. How do we propagate our religion to be the true religion, and for us to make it known to the people that we are peace-loving and, you know, this is our religion, and we don't want people to offend us without offending them?
Well, if it's a global village, you need to get into a global platform.
No, but there are global platforms out there.
Yeah,
so
we
need to get the right people on them platforms.
So when we're talking that, we all have to accept we now live in a global, you know, village. We are in the world is now a small place.
Multicultural.
You know, multicultural. We are in a small place now. You know, we could be sat here. We know what's going on in Pakistan. We know what's going on in India. We know what's going on in Australia. We know what's going on anywhere in the world. We know what's happening there. We are effectively part of that. So because we are effectively part of that, we know what's going on. We know what is happening. You know, we then need to. We're not restricted to just our village now. We can't go into the village mentality anymore.
So we have to be what's the word now?
Mainstream, a bit more
diplomatic about it.
And we got to take being.
Can't be just bati based.
Politically correct, PC. That's what we all have to be.
And
that's the way the world's becoming now.
And diplomacy is something that we as Muslims need to adopt. Though in number we are becoming a large amount of the world's population. If there's 7 billion in the world, 1.6, 1.7, 1.8 billion is Muslim. That's nearly 2 in every 7 is a Muslim in the world. Largely due to in the Middle East and in the subcontinent. You know, these are, and Africa. There's a lot of Muslim countries in Africa. There's a lot of Muslim countries in the Middle East. Majority, if not all of them. And you've got the subcontinent as well. You know, there's a large percentage of Muslims that live in India, for example.
Yeah.
And now in Europe, Islam has entered into America. You know, Islam is a worldwide, it's a global religion. It's not just a religion of Arabia. It's not something that's just come from there. And as Muslims are from different parts of the world, who stem from different cultural values or cultures. You know, I know Muslims who are Algerian, whose culture is different from Muslims who are Pakistani.
Yeah, of course.
Who are different from Muslims who are Turkish, who are different from Muslims who are from Africa, who are different from Muslims from who are born in Europe and in the UK.
See, but they all still share that one common thing, and that's Islam. So
The Quran and Sunnah.
If somebody has an opinion on the Quran or Sunnah, you know, they're not gonna be as offended by that. It's like what I said to you, Didi, that if you call me a Paki, you know, I'm not gonna be offended. But if somebody, even whether they're from Sudan or whether they're from Iraq, yes, if it's a cultural thing, if they pick on the fact of my certain British cultures, the fact that I like to have a fish and chips on a Friday night, British culture, that kind of thing, yes, I can get offended there because we don't share that in common. Our ethnicities, our, the countries that we belong to, they're not in common, but we share Quran and Sunnah and Islam. We share that in common.
And the one thing that we do all share in common is we're all humans. Let's strip it down.
Yeah, of course. So there's that, right? There's that minimum thing that you are going to be able to agree on.
Yeah, you need to agree on that. Then you've got what we're talking about here is the freedom of speech. Moving on, and Muslim countries and the Middle East, and personally, what I think is we're not united on a foundation level. Look at us, yeah.
Look at are you saying as Muslims community, or are you saying as humans?
I'll tell you from our community, yeah, was. How often do you give salam to the Muslim brother that's walking past you in the street?
Me personally, pretty often, yeah.
Pretty often. Does that person ever give you salam back, or did they be surprised, or what's it? Yeah, be honest.
No, I think the best way for me to answer that question is how many times I get salam.
There you go.
Yeah, that's very rare. Very rare.
Why can't we give salam to each other no more?
I don't
know.
If
we're not united like that, and when people attack us and our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we're gonna get attacked.
I think when it comes down to unity, look, I don't think that it's got anything to do with the fact that we possess different opinions. I think that's because of the country. Like if you go to, for example, I went to Umrah a couple of years ago. You know, if you go to Saudi Arabia,
you're going to see everyone.
Yeah, you see everyone there, and it's common there. Salam.
Yeah.
Salam Haji. Here, I'll be honest with you, when you're sat in traffic, you know what's common here?
Yeah, just that nod,
That nod.
The nod.
That's common.
But that's become our culture now. See, our parents... When we were, I remember our parents would say, Salam dene.
Yeah.
We were taught to a certain point. But then as we went to school, as we went to universities, we started a social life, we started going to work, we don't say, Assalamu alaikum, bro. Unless we walk into a gathering or something.
Yeah.
Islamically, we should begin with this greeting. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. Allah's mighty salam and blessings be upon you at that time when you give that salam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. But living here, this is just one example of how we are culturally. Yeah, in the Arab world, salam. Look how we text, salam. We don't even write assalamu alaikum, me included. We all write salam. So what we need to understand is that there's certain aspects culturally, but we need to move out of the cultural village, narrow sort of approach, and now understand we live in a global village. So we're not in a local village, we're in the global, it's a universal sense of approaching things. So what we say now, how we say things, how we conduct ourselves as Muslims, it will reflect on Muslims everywhere.
I get that, Emma, but you know where I as a Muslim would struggle with that is, look, the point that you've made, if say for example, we were in a conference right now, and we've got some access to every single Muslim's ears right now. We're propagating this message to them that, look, this is the world we're living in. We need to live together and let's have some sort of common ground. If I am willing to take that step and I take that step, but one thing you can't do or I can't do is we can't expect somebody who's not a Muslim to follow our advice because our God has told us to act like that in our life through the Quran. Now the thing is, if I act like that and I don't get it back, we're human. We're Muslims, but we're also human. And that sabr, yes, we should have more. Yes, we should be able to deal with it. But if because my religion has told me to, is do not offend anyone, say, always have peace with people and be, everything cool, calm and collected. But I don't get that in return. Instead, I get racist slurs. Instead, I'll be walking down Leeds Road and some guy's driving past and you dirty Paki or something. It's very, very hard to do.
Have you ever had that?
I've had it, yeah.
I've had it.
I had the opposite once. I was at a bus stop. There's a funny story for you, yeah. The guy did not realize...
Do not waffle.
No,
Please tell me.
no.
It better
Get
be
straight
a-
to the point as well, straight
to the
Trust
point,
me,
yeah.
it's worth it.
You got-
Trust me, it's worth it. Trust me, it's
45,
worth it.
45.
Are you
Five,
wasting
five,
time?
give me 45
Where's
now.
my freedom of speech?
You got none here.
You've got-
You got none.
All right, look, I was at a bus stop.
20 seconds
All right, I
of
was at a
shukla.
bus stop. The guy thought I was white, so he stood behind me. "Eh, kutu ai gaya main maro my." मतलब बस पर चढ़ना गा this that and I turn and go पापा मैं भी ऐसा पर बस पर बड़ा शौक हो गया सी. So I've had both sides of it,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
not
yeah.
a lot of people can say. Had racist slurs for not being white and for not
No,
being
but
black.
are we not, you know, and I know we're going into sort of racist slurs and that, but this is all, it comes under the freedom of speech and freedom of expression discussion that we're having.
Yeah.
Do you not think we Pakistanis are some of the most racist people in the world?
Yes, I do. I agree with that.
You know, if we see a
I
black person, we say,
absolutely agree
"Kalai
with
gaya,
that. Yeah, I absolutely agree. You know what it is?
gorin."
We,
Do you not think?
and I've said this many
Do
times.
you not think our parents or our elders have that racist mentality?
You know what it is? Now you.
I'm not saying everything.
No, not
No,
everything.
I'm
Look,
pressing here, but
we've been learned to live with the community that we're part of in England, being the British white community.
not to integrate.
No, not to
Or to
integrate.
integrate.
No, we've been
But
taught
why
to
have we been
tolerate.
taught? Yeah, no. How have we been
Utmost.
taught to tolerate? I remember as a kid, the elders telling me, look, just do your thing. Do your thing, that's it. Don't try to have big dreams. Don't have big ambitions. You're not going to get there. That's why, because the door's going to be closed on you.
There's two ways. There's two ways to this. Look, my elders always said to me, yeah, and other people that I know, you know, you can't hang around with Jack and Tom on the evening because we've got our way of living.
Yeah,
you can't, you know, they don't have halal food at their house. You know, for these kind of reasons, and you know, I'm genuinely talking to you about genuine cases, right? So we. Not myself, because alhamdulillah I've been exposed to the world quite a bit, and I'm very, you know, I've got white friends and black friends.
You're
alhamdulillah.
international, we understand. Get on with it.
But my point being that, look, that stuff has been fed to children even within our own communities. But at the same time, that being said, I believe we're racist to ourselves as well. Because within ourselves, as Muslims, as Pakistanis, how many things do we have within them, within those sects? And yes, freedom of speech doesn't just come down to races. It doesn't just come down to religions. Within cultures, you've got cultures. If you're not a Mirpuri, you're from Islamabad.
Or
You're a
Punjabi.
Lori. You're a Sialkoti bare khode hone. If not, you're a Pathan. You know, there's that within that one culture. Is that embedded? And then within the religion, Sunni, Wahhabi, Shia, you can't go to his house because
But
of this.
what does Islam say then? I mean, that's a question I thought you'd ask me, but I'll ask myself. What does Islam say here?
Go on.
You know,
yeah.
should we have that mentality?
No, of course
Didn't
not.
the Prophet ﷺ say, alayhi salatu wassalam, on the final, on the farewell Hajj? Many deem this as the final major sermon, but the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam delivered a few sermons after this as well, which maybe in some lecture or talk next time we'll do this. By the way, I just forgot to mention this. We started a bit late because Imam Adil was teaching. So we've got cameras, you know, a lot of classes and courses are being taught online. Imam Adil, myself and others are teaching. So hence why I thought I forgot to mention it before. I'll mention it now. But what did Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam say? It's called pitching it, you see. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam say with regards to that. Said, today I mentioned to you what? No black is superior to a white. No Arab is superior over a non-Arab. No black is superior over a white. No white is superior. Meaning that you are all equal before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Muslims, you are all equal. But it is your righteousness and piety which will determine who is better than the other. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Somebody can be deemed on the apparent to be righteous and pious. I can be perceived righteous and pious because of the length of my beard, the turban. You know, we've restricted piety to appearance.
Of course.
Yet piety isn't appearance. The Prophet ﷺ said, Taqwa hahuna, taqwa hahuna, taqwa hahuna. They said, piety, righteousness stems from your heart. فَإِنَّهَا مِن تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ.
See, if somebody's seen Allama Iqbal walking into a masjid today,
They wouldn't think he's pious.
Exactly.
He only had a mustache
Yeah,
like
and
this
clean
and
shaved.
glasses on, clean
Yeah.
shaved. So don't deem and judge piety
based,
based
on,
on
a-
appearances.
Yeah.
Don't judge piety based on Arab and non-Arab. Don't judge piety based on a person's skin color. Piety, the yardstick to measure piety isn't this. Piety, you can see and determine from where the conduct of a person in his character, his speech. The way you can measure a person's piety is where? Through his actions.
See, I think, on that, there's a massive kind of thought process behind it, is that because we know you can be superior in your religion, as in closeness to Allah, piety, not so much the better Muslim, but, you can have your ranks there.
More practicing.
More
religious. Or
and
whatever.
what's happened over the past 1400 years is people have associated Arabs or Arabia with, because even though they've not done it in the fact that they're Arab, or because of their nationality, or the fact that they look like that, or the fact that they were always wearing the jubbah, they've not done it because of appearance, but because they're from the land where Islam originates from, they've kind of confused piety with the way that they look. And it's
stereotype.
Exactly, yes.
So, which brings us that there are stereotypes that are around every community, every culture, every background. Communities within communities, cultures within cultures.
So is it wrong if it's around every community, Aima?
No, but
around
stereotypes. This is just human nature. We immediately stereotype. A guy with a big beard and jubba walking in Tesco's with his wife, who's fully cladded with burqa on and fully wearing the niqab. Hey, these guys must be super, the extreme stereotype. Then there's a lad who's walking with, look at, I've spoken to people from down south whose stereotypes of northerners. Their stereotype is the drug dealers up there. It's not necessary. That's because we're humans.
Bradford doesn't stereotype.
And what does Islam say about how you should you stereotype in Islam? You shouldn't. The first thing you should do is have a good opinion of your brother. Husnu zan billah. Husnu zan
benefit of the doubt.
Having good opinion on a person. Benefit of the doubt. This is what Islam tells us. So when you look at freedom of speech within Islam, freedom of expression within Islam, stereotypes, racism, how to speak, how to do everything. When we put all of this around here, we realize that I believe Islam gives the better opinion on this, gives the better understanding of. It's not. See, I dispute this word freedom. Here,
how would you reword it?
That's what I was trying to say at the start. Who gave us that rhetoric of freedom of speech? That's the point I made at the start.
It's wording in it.
But words are powerful.
Play of words, isn't it?
Yeah, but
how powerful words are. Freedom. What does freedom mean? You're free to do what you want. Your wings are free.
Free for all.
Free for all. Yeah.
If somebody walked in now,
you can say what you want.
Exactly.
But really, you can't.
But this is what I'm saying.
But then you can't use the word freedom. Then I'm saying.
What's the better word?
I don't know. What is a better word?
See, what we're talking about now is stereotypes have been set.
Word.
No, but hang on, let me just make a point.
Think of one.
We're talking of stereotypes that have been set in the world. Freedom of speech is a stereotype phrase that has been already put into our brain. Freedom of speech. What is freedom of speech?
Yeah, but
that's what we're discussing now. We're delving into it, realizing that there is no real freedom of speech.
No, of course there isn't. But my question is that how would you explain to somebody who's coming onto a mic and he's going to be speaking in front of a crowd of 6,000, and you have to tell them that they've got a limited, because this is what it is, it's a limited freedom of speech that could possibly carry penalties. How would you explain that to a person except for doing it the way that I've just done it, obviously?
Yeah, but nowadays we know, if you mention Jews, you're going to get done. If you mention gays and if you're homophobic, should I say, you're going to,
xenophobia.
There's certain things that we know we can't say anyway. We don't need to be told that now.
Now I want to take the convo to this point. If you say something to the Jewish community, it is deemed anti-Semitic. If you say something against the homosexual community, it is deemed as xenophobia. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Homophobic, I think.
Homophobia, the xenophobia, and there's other phobias. What's phobia? Fear.
Yeah.
It's the sense of fear. Now, when you say something against the Muslim community, all of us, you offend the Muslim community, is that deemed, hate speech? How many examples?
It's not been registered. This is the thing.
We've not registered. I blame ourselves, mate.
That's what I was going to get to earlier on in the podcast.
Yeah,
they organized. They've gone to the top. They've made their laws. They set, mate. We got more Muslims than Jews here.
No, but you see why? I'll tell you why. How many? This is for the Jewish community and that, and how the Jewish community. What is their population in the UK?
No.
Where is the Muslim population in the UK?
We
must be nearly 4 million.
Okay.
Between 4 to 5 million population in the UK, it's us. We are nearly coming up to 10%. The moment we get to about 6 million, we'll be touching nearly 10% of the Muslim of the population of the
That's
UK.
a lot less than I thought, to be honest.
But it's a lot. 4
No
million is
doubt.
a lot.
Yeah.
Right now, within the Jewish community, if we were to get their statistics, the last time I checked, their population was about 500,000-600,000.
Yeah,
So less than us.
Much less than ours.
they concentrate communities.
Okay,
as
how
well.
many members of the parliament do we have? Remember, politics, the world is run on politics.
650 something. More,
There's about 400 and something MPs in the House of Parliament,
Yep.
right? Of which, how many are Muslim?
it's about 20, 30 of them.
No chance. What are you on about?
10.
Yeah, I seen that list last time. And
There's
about
not 20, 30. If you're including Lords, maybe, yeah, okay. There's members of Parliament, I think there's maybe 10 or 11, 12 maybe. If I was to check, I could give you the exact figures,
Go and check.
Let's Google it.
right? How many members of Parliament are from the Jewish community?
Google that one as well.
And if you was to compare the statistics, you will find that the Jewish community have a powerful voice in Parliament.
See, I was nearly right.
Right,
So there's 650 MPs. So my
Right,
first
okay.
one was right.
right, okay, yeah, sorry.
And there's 18 Muslim MPs.
18 Muslim MPs.
Yeah, but there's a lot more Jewish ones.
So how many are in the Jewish community?
I'll tell you.
Yeah,
that.
but what have them 18 done as well if you go to that? They've got the responsibility now.
No, but let's not move into that sort of conversation. We'll hold them to account on another podcast. But what I'm saying is,
There's some that are obviously they've not declared their faith, but according to Google, it's roughly between 80 to 85.
Jewish
Yeah,
members of Parliament.
yeah. In comparison to 18 Muslim ones.
Look at that. And compare the population. Go check what Muslim population is compared to the Jewish population. And you know what you'll find? What you will find is that we are not avidly interested in the way our country is run. Because if we was,
So we don't want it enough for ourselves.
then do you blame? If
Yeah, I see the point.
If we don't have a powerful political voice to mention there's a hate crime against Muslims happening on the streets of Bradford or in London, people are discriminating against Muslims. Who's that? Where's that voice gone? Who's going to speak out against this? So if we want to introduce a law into this country, when it comes to, you need to have a petition signed 500,000 for it to be debated in the House of Commons.
Yeah.
We can't even get that. If we was to say that, look,
No, if you left it just to the Muslim community, you would not get it. Of course, I agree with that.
Islamophobic. So there's Islamophobia. There's a rise in anti-Islam. There's a lot of anti-Islam rhetoric now happening through France, Belgium, European countries. It's happening, and in institutional organizations, in setups. And then you go within UK as well.
Yeah, of course.
We can't turn a blind eye to the far right who want to rid Islam from the UK. We've got the Katie Hopkins and these extreme that's happening out there.
Yeah.
See,
That's my question, Ahmad. Look, if we say something, now Katie Hopkins, correct me if I'm wrong, but she's Jewish.
I don't know.
Right, so my knowledge tells me she's Jewish. Yeah, I might be wrong, but my point being that if we threw out that kind of rhetoric, or we had a celebrity on that level throwing out that kind of rhetoric to any faith, let's not contain it to
Restrict it to
restrict it to Jewish people, anyone, Sikhism, Hinduism, whatever it is. My question is, forget what we're doing. Let's talk about the law that we've got in place. How are they getting away with it? Because whatever law there is for us, surely there is for them.
No, there isn't. That's what I'm saying, man.
No, but the
Because
law,
they've gone into law, they put that anti-Semitic law in there. But when somebody draws a picture of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a cartoon,
you got to remember one thing though. That happened in France. So we can't talk about British law there.
that when I was trying to go back to world law there, that what we were saying about the human rights, innit?
Yeah.
There's the human rights, the global village thing we're talking about again. So what I'm saying to you is, you need to be in power. That's what I was trying to say. You need to get into the position of power. Another thing that I was going to mention was, as Muslims, why we get attacked a lot and Islamophobia, we're not even united within ourselves. That's my point. We don't even like each other. We got hate within
this is what I said.
That's
There
what I'm saying.
is that racism.
You need to have that
and
unity first between yourselves to make a stand and to start making revolutions and, you know, changing things.
I genuinely,
You gotta
if
be
you ask
together.
me my opinion, then we're a very long way away from
That's
it.
what I'm thinking as well. That's what I'm saying.
Because if we have to unite ourselves, and that's leaving out the fact that you're a Bengali Muslim, you're a Pakistani Muslim, you're an Indian Muslim, we have to get over that hurdle. After we've crossed that hurdle, then it's you're a Wahhabi Muslim.
Yeah, just look locally, forget all that. You'll hate on someone just because of the car he's got, just because of the clothes he's wearing. Even though he's Muslim, he's got
So
the
my
same
question
skin
is,
colour
where
as
do
you,
we
the
go
same
from here?
religion as you.
Where
But
do
we
we
got
go
so
from
much
here?
hate inside us.
when we tell them this is what Islam says, we ourselves
Are going against that.
are not implementing what our sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us, then what? I think we should close the podcast here. Then, innit? I think you guys have just completely killed it. I thought we look at the expression on their faces.
No, yeah, I
Put the camera on
I
you,
thought I
look.
smashed a sick point there. To be fair.
No, but what I'm saying is that the point here is to create awareness. So we can say we're not united, and we've been saying that for a long time. Ever since we was in madrasa and after, we've always known Muslims are not united the way they should be. You know, the way the Muslim Ummah united under Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, the way the Ummah united under, you know, many of the great Muslim leaders. We're not united like that. There's a fact. You know, we're quite divided amongst ourselves, culturally, in our societies, everything. But should that be the reason for us to not raise our voice? Have we not seen an example in Pakistan?
Yeah.
When you raise your voice, when you become the voice of the people. You know, we need leadership in order for us to be recognized. End of the day, bro, we're 1.8 million in the world. Only Christians have a larger population than us, and that's only 200 million more. Maybe 200-300 million more than us. We're not far off. The way procreation goes on in our community, bro, we'll be soon largest, you know, community in the world will be the Muslim community. Islam will be the largest religion in the world soon.
But what we're pushing for is to basically not to get anybody confused or anything like that, not for some sort of a takeover, but just to be treated, you know, with the say, if you're gonna give a Jew respect, then give a Muslim respect. That's all we're asking for.
Exactly. So do we need to be united for that to happen?
I think so.
Yeah,
I
would
think
say
so. For any
So we have to first sort
Yeah.
our own house out before we expect someone to respect us.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
I disagree slightly. I think we individually have responsibility. We individually carry ourselves right. Then why would somebody want to then do that?
See, what I'm doing is my opinion. Genuinely, now I think about what you've just said. Is there's a sense of kind of politics kicking into my mind as to how would we do it? Because yes, what you just said is absolutely bang on right. If each and every single Muslim, united or not, knows the fact that he's got a cause he on an individual basis needs to fight for, and that's to be treated fairly within the world, right? So that there's certain things people can't say about him as a Muslim, and certain things that he can't say about other people. But where my opinion came from of, you know, sorting oneself out before and uniting, it comes down to the political side of it. Because if we were to do some sort of be it a protest, be it a petition, be it a debate, be it awareness, people have to come together. And it's the coming
There you
together.
go.
It's
Again,
it's the coming together that
You know when it is throughout history within Islam, either an event or a personality has brought the ummah together.
No, we're saying we need that.
So American Muslims had Malcolm X.
yeah.
He was a voice. Where's the voice in our communities? Our voice politically are the Muslim MPs we put there. We've
Yeah,
not held them
yeah.
to account, right? So it goes back down to that. Now, if we don't understand the law that we live in, that hate speech is a crime. If you've had hate speech done to you, report it. Why are you brushing it under the carpet? That it don't matter about unity there. We need to understand the laws and the rights that we have. I don't think we know what our rights are.
Exactly. I agree with you on
I
that.
think a lot of us are
I'll play
ignorant of
devil's
that.
advocate. How do we know
I-
how many people have reported the hate crimes to the police and the police haven't taken it further from Muslims? How do we know that? How do we know Muslims don't actually ring in
Yes,
and say,
people do
I've
have a
been
lack
called
of
a
faith,
terrorist?
but-
I'll tell you something. I was doing sales 2 years ago in Halifax, W.H. Smith. I was stood there. An old woman, I was trying to sell to her, pitch to her. She opened the newspaper. She goes, that's one of you, innit? Terrorist. To my face. I rang my manager. I said, I've just been called a terrorist in WH Smith. What's going on? He goes, report it. So I reported it.
To
Nothing happened to the police, to Halifax police. Nothing happened. Nothing up taken forward. I remember me and my manager were on the case for 2 weeks. We were ringing him up. Nothing got moved forward. True story.
But you took a step in the right direction. The problem is that sometimes
Then
us
it
guys,
disheartens you though. The system will dishearten you.
I understand that. But what you got to remember that we're at a stage where we are fighting for something. We are fighting to be recognized. We are fighting for that law. You got to understand that along the way, we have to do our part. Because we're not there. If we were there, we wouldn't.
Do we need to fight? In the world we live in, the world that's so advanced and so great now, do we really need to fight to raise our voice to be recognized? Yet we're the largest population.
The gays got recognized. And we're still not recognized properly.
The homosexual community has more recognition. I'm not saying completely Islam is not recognized. MashaAllah, we've got Mesut Ozil. We've got Khabib. These are world figures, powerful figures. Muhammad Salah.
Paul Pogba.
You know, these are Muslim figures that are
influential.
Mesut Ozil every Friday puts a post up on his Instagram. Mesut Ozil every Friday, he is pushing Islam now. This is what he's doing. He's bringing more Islam on content onto his timeline than he was before. Why? Because he spoke up. He spoke up for the
cause, isn't it?
Persecution of the Muslims in China. And look at his career's going down. Arsenal not giving him a chance. Why? Politically. But he's risked that. Khabib, when the French president said what he said about the Prophet ﷺ and then the Muslim communities and how it was so anti-Islam. Look at the post he put up.
Muhammad Ali is the greatest example of the world loving a Muslim.
Ali,
Donald Trump said R.I.P.
You know, he was a Muslim. Allah have mercy on his soul. He was a sporting figure, the greatest in the 20th century. There was no one equal to him.
Greatest speaker of the 20th century.
Awesome speaker. My point is, these voices were risen. They awoken hearts of people. We, as individually, we need to actively become activists in becoming recognized. If there's systematic or systemic racism that goes on, or discrimination that's going on, or hate speech against Muslims that's going on, then we need to make a change of that. I believe that if we was to say, Afar Saab said we need to unite first before we can change the world. When will that unity come? Might be another 10, 15, 20 years. It might be too late then.
See, but
why don't we now individually understand where we're going? You know, we all, I mean, we as a, I don't want to digress too much from this, but we always say, well, why are Muslims, not just within religious circles, why are we not united? That unity is not going to happen. There's difference of opinion. It's tolerance between us that we need to promote. That we're able to tolerate one another. It's having dialogue without offending.
But it's at the same time. Unity, even if, look, let's for example. So if
we don't have the basic human tolerance level inside us, what do we expect?
I get that. But look, even if it's, forget unity for a second. Let's talk individual basis. We're working towards a cause. We all want the same thing, whether somebody else wants it and we agree with him or not based on the way he wants to go about it. We all want the same thing. And that is to, when it comes to freedom of speech, my personal opinion is that the only community who has got the negative side of freedom of speech is the Muslim community, my personal opinion.
I think is there a rise in anti-Islam?
Of course there is. Every year, whether it's not...
the black community will dispute what you said, by the way.
No, look, in their own way, I agree with them as well.
They get shot and killed in America, man.
We mentioned this last time about white privilege. At the end of the day, each community to themselves feel like they're living under that shadow. Me as a Muslim, I feel like it's us guys who are living under that shadow. But what I'm saying is, on an individual basis, you mentioned Malcolm X, you mentioned Ali, you mentioned
Mesut Ozil.
And Khabib and all these people that are doing their bit and tying it in with what Didi said about reporting something to the police. Look, these people have worked towards a cause. Yeah, the cause being to not have to live under that shadow and to live on that same,
to be recognized,
to be recognized,
have the
same rights. But the fact is, with their efforts and all the people who have come and gone, and with our efforts on an individual or a united basis today, we've not reached that cause. So when we're taking those hits and the police are not taking notice and the world is still giving us flack for it, we still have to take into consideration that if we'd reached that cause, we wouldn't have to report because we wouldn't get it in the first place. We have to learn where we are before we learn where we want to go. That's the point we're at. You know, we're at the point where we can't expect for me to call the police and say, I've just been called a Paki on St. Leonard's Road. Can you please get here? They're not going to turn up. Why? Because it's not their job yet. We need to work towards, if I know that I need to report it for enough cases to build up, for it to reach media attention, for it to reach political attention, for it then to become a reason for them to do something. But if we get disheartened every single time, and if Ali and Khabib and these big people who have got a much better platform than us to do it, then we say this, we're going to be stuck for a very, very long time if now's where we're getting stuck at. That's my point.
Subhanallah, subhanallah.
No, you're right. I think we need to wake up and realize where we are before we can put a plan where we know we need to go.
Yeah.
What the next step on the stage
Would
is.
you say we need more people in, this is for you, I mean, entertainment, in media?
I think in politics, we need a huge representation of the Muslim community. More. We need young, academic, articulate, intellectual, aspiring leaders from our communities to select them to go and represent us and be a voice for us in Parliament. We need, I don't even want to go into the topic of, Pakistani Asian footballers we've not even broken through yet. We've had Amir Khan who's broke through.
World champion.
He was a voice. Whatever anyone said, he's been fantastic. He's been phenomenal.
Two-time world
In
champion.
his right, two-time world champion.
World
Yep.
champion. Man.
Awesome.
He gave the British Muslims who
He gave
were
British,
losing hope, he gave them hope.
Yeah,
You've
he
got
did.
kids, I'll mention it openly here, I've done a couple of events for them, Lights Out Boxing Academy.
Yeah.
Those kids that come in there,
Yeah.
and it reminds me of something that Obama said once, sorry, just to give you an example of it. Obama once said that being a young black kid in America, somebody telling me that you could be president one day, he goes, it wasn't ever believable till he himself became president. Now you ask a black kid in America and their eyes are light up. It's the exact same way that Amir Khan and
Giving them hope.
Yeah, it's giving hope.
You'll be recognized.
Of course, and that's what these young British Muslims that have broke that system and have made it out there.
Yeah, but not enough of man, was.
No,
Amir
not
Khan
enough, of
broke the
course.
matrix. He's
Yeah.
the only one, unfortunately, at the moment.
No, he's not. You had that young Asian British
He's not
girl
world
on that
champion,
cooking
though.
show. No, he's not. But what I'm
Oh,
saying
you
is,
that Nadia Hussain who won the Great British Bake Off,
it
yeah?
brings me back to the point that we're doing it at this level. We can say there's not enough and there's only one, but we've not reached that cause yet.
Yeah, but if we're talking about Asian community,
Yeah.
then these are your breakouts. But if we're talking about the Muslim community,
Mo
which
Farah?
is not restricted. Mo Farah?
Yeah.
The France football team.
French football team,
Yeah.
how many of them are Muslims?
They won the
Haji
World
Kante, mate. You can't touch my guy Angolo on
Yeah,
that,
best
man.
defensive midfielder.
Don't
in the
talk to me
the
about
whole-
football. Do not talk to
My
me about
brother,
football.
we talk about Muslims and Muslims. A lot of the people are big fans of Kante, man.
Khabib,
The
the
world
whole world
loves
was at his
Khabib.
feet.
You know when I still love, I must say, when France won the World Cup, bro, the whole of the stadium was singing, Angolo Kante.
Yeah.
Bro,
He's a Muslim.
it gives me goosebumps. You know why? Because that's a Muslim. N'Golo Kante is a simple guy, bro. He's one of the best box-to-box midfielders in the world, man. I rate him.
I'm sure if
salute
I
him.
knew about football, it'd give me goosebumps
Short
as well.
guy,
But I just don't
he's
know.
dark-skinned, from African roots, France World Cup winner. He's won the Premier League with Leicester. He's won the Premier League with Chelsea. The man, and he's a Muslim.
He covers 75% of the
Why are we
Does
not?
it give you pride?
I feel very proud knowing that Haji Kante is the man.
So this is the things that we need to
Paul
work on,
Habib
man. We've got,
Pogba, Mesut Ozil. We should. These are Muslim figures that we should be.
for the
we should
Asian
be
for the Asian community. we do
raving
need
over,
more,
man.
yeah, of course, I agree. I agree with you.
representation in media, in entertainment as well, because that's where influence happens from. Who do we get influenced by? Who do kids get influenced by? Athletes.
I'll be honest with you, this last 10, 15 years, I would say, looking at the BBC in particular, that I've seen that coming in. You've got people who are, and they're inspirations for me because I like to be a funny guy. Guz Khan, is
Guz
it?
Khan, yeah.
Guz
Guz-
Khan.
check Guz out.
Tez Ilyas.
Funny guy.
These people, and they've done it. I would consider that, like, Amir Khan's in boxing, you reach that level, that's a breakthrough. But making it onto the BBC and having your own show, that's smashing it as well.
No,
He's
he's
a
smashed
Muslim.
it. No,
He's
Guz
a
Khan
Muslim.
smashed it 100%.
And
And how many times does he also voices his opinion as a Muslim?
he
So
smashed
many
it.
times.
He smashed it, yes.
and what it is when we look at that, these are success stories.
Yeah.
as much as we've spoke about how it's not happening for us, there's these people that are making things happen for us.
Yeah.
Riz
That
Ahmed
are
in Hollywood.
voices of, Riz Ahmed was in
Hollywood
Venom,
one.
Hollywood, he's acting next to Tom Hardy. There are Muslims breaking through.
Yeah.
And they are becoming huge, powerful voices. And we're seeing that. And we need to get behind that and support that. But what can we do on an individual aspect? We need to understand what our rights are, what laws we can. And whenever we have cases of hate crime, discrimination, report it, make it aware, make it known, let people know what's happening. Don't let the system drown you out from voicing your opinion.
And be the opposite of what the system thinks you are. I think there's some, obviously, like I said, Islamically, there's a saying or there's a hadith that says, carry yourself the way that, of the religion that you're from, basically. Carry yourself as a Muslim as you want to be treated as a Muslim. Show the world that you're that peace-loving, you're the type of person that anybody can approach. You have to be that person. Now, look, I went to Liverpool when they won the Premier League. Now, you got Liverpoolians who, I don't know if you remember, I'm about 10, 15 years ago, Liverpool was a very, very,
The point you can make.
not rightly so, but a very racist area. If you're Muslim, you go there, you might
We were
get
told
banned.
as kids always in it in Bradford.
Yeah, don't go Liverpool
Yeah, straight
unless
up,
you need to
yeah.
pick up your passport.
Yeah.
That's the only
That's
time
the only- yeah,
we
you're
used to go to Liverpool as
I
Muslims.
forgot to mention Moeen Ali and Adil Rashid
Oh, yeah,
as well.
Adil, yeah.
Local Adil
Of course,
Rashid's a local Bradford lad.
massive.
Made it massive.
Yeah.
One day we'll get him on this podcast.
Inshallah.
Maybe we might get Masood Ozil on the podcast. We can talk to him and share your views and
Yeah.
sentiments. Any of these guys. But the point is, these are success stories that we should be very proud of.
Of course.
Everyone in their personal life makes mistakes.
Yeah.
We can all point fingers
Of
at
course.
Amir Khan and these and Mo Farah and all these lot.
Bro, no
but
one's perfect.
ultimately, they are Muslims. They read the kalima la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. And they are in positions of power. They are in positions of
influence. Yep.
They do huge work. When Masood Ozil writes Juma Mubarak and that's powerful. When Khabib, wins his fight and he says, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, all praises to Allah. And then, he thanks his parents. A lot of people didn't know what respect to parents was till Khabib mentioned it.
Yeah. Bang on.
Respect to these guys,
Bang on,
man.
of
These
course.
guys are our voices. These are our people, and we need people to grow in our communities and say that. And everyone's saying like Didi speak. I think Didi spoke more today than he has.
Yeah.
Do they still want me to speak?
What are they still
I don't know
saying?
how
Yeah,
much
people
they want
look
him
me.
to
What
speak.
can I say, man?
Let me see.
We should let him speak. Let Didi give
I've
Didi
had my
5 minutes.
I've had
man.
my moments. I'm alright. Carry
Didi,
on.
it's all on you, mate.
No, it's
Yeah,
alright.
we're gonna sit back.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry. Carry on.
Nah, Didi's one of them ones like in and out.
I'm smelling something here. Jealousy from my two
That would
co-hosts.
be jealous, man. We wouldn't.
Nah,
no
people-
need to be jealous.
people
of
wanna
each
know,
other.
man. People,
You
wanna
know, but
it does make a difference.
it makes a huge difference. These people are making moves. And
Just
Chunks.
Yeah,
Check out boy Chunks.
Yeah,
I don't know him,
Chunks,
but
man.
Chunks is a Muslim, Somalian, if I'm not mistaken.
I just want to say something about him, why he's like inspirational, because a lot of the kids nowadays growing up want to do what he's doing, and he's broken that barrier now. He's on Sky Sports, man, in the morning. He's on Sky Sports, G.
Yeah.
Broadcasting, man, Soccer AM and all sorts.
Smashed it, Sky Sports. The guy's just like you.
What do you mean, just like?
Fuck.
Okay, I'm
he's
pretty sure
doing that,
there's other
he's doing
qualities
that.
that we got to share in common. But
Yeah,
yeah,
fella.
look, you know what it comes down to? He put in the effort and he remembered his cause. If we all remember our own cause, yeah, we're bringing it back to freedom of speech. If that's our cause as a Muslim community, as whoever it is, if we remember that, then whatever we do in our daily lives, if he's wanting to reach that platform and then give this message out that I am a Muslim.
Which platform does he want to reach?
No, whatever platform he's at now.
Platform, not platform.
Platform, whatever it is. My point being that look, he's reached that point. There's a lot of people who've stayed quiet about who they are, have not brought their religion into it. They've made it and then they've smashed it. Why? To have that effect. And at the end of the day, look, it's about knowing that there's a cause there and everything we do towards it, is working towards reaching that cause. But if it was down to the big
Fighting
celebrities,
with the mic.
what's
Oh.
that?
It says he knocked the mic and I was fighting with it.
I won't find it. I'm just messing him. Oh, God. Carry on anyway.
I've lost my train of thought there. But the point being is we need to
These
remember
guys
the
have
cause.
made it and they've broken the barriers. They've broken through the system and there are voices that are Muslim voices that are out there, irrespective of their ethnicity, ethnicity and their background. These guys are Muslims. They're out there. It's happening. But that does not stop the fact that there's a lot of anti-Islam out there. There's a lot of rhetoric against Muslims. There's a lot of rhetoric against, there's a lot of Islamophobia. And dare I say it again, the media plays a huge role in how the minds of people think, how people think in their minds. You know, when the media puts out a car has gone straight into a group of people, immediately is a Muslim terrorist.
Yep.
You know, the word Allahu Akbar is used, again, connotation, stereotype, jihad, stereotype.
Why did they
There's
raise
a lot
the
of
terror
things there,
levels?
man.
Like even things like that, I'll just throw it to you, IMAH. How would you explain them raising the terror levels without any reason? Like it happened in France. Why did they raise the terror level to the highest level here in the UK?
Well, what happened in France was
Islamophobia.
Charlie Hebdo, for example. You know, most likely they're going to probably take this podcast off anyway because we're mentioning all the things that probably they don't want. It's an infringement of freedom of speech, freedom of discussion here.
There's that
We have the
penalty.
right to say what we
But
want
we're
to
still
say.
going to
But
work towards the
we're not
cause.
here to offend
We're not
nobody. We're just talking about what's real, what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, how we as a Muslim community are subconsciously, there's in the background, things are happening against them. I'm not a conspiracist when I say this, that, you know, when you've got the president of a country openly saying that Muslim immigrants, you know, if they say something against these cartoons which are drawn, they want to have the right to draw cartoons depicting the Prophet ﷺ, who is the leader of 1.8 million Muslims around the world. They want to have this right. That is downright offensive, bro.
Of course.
We will not accept that. That is truly offending to me. Why? Why is it offensive to us? If someone draws a cartoon of the Prophet ﷺ, end of the day it's a cartoon. The argument would be it's a cartoon. It's nothing. The reality is, like Sayyidina Shaykh Muhammad al-Yaqubi, he mentioned, when they draw something like this, they're actually showing the ugliness inside them.
Yeah.
It's a reflection of the ugliness that they have. It's not a reflection of the greatness of the Prophet ﷺ. No.
They'd never be able to put that.
They will never. Why? Because, you see, they're going to try taking the love of the Prophet ﷺ out of our hearts. They can't do it. If it came to it, down to it, we would sacrifice our life for Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. When I say sacrifice, I mean we would give up what we need to give up. We would give up what we have to give up in order to defend his honor, in order to protect. But here in a democratic society, in a society in the West, in Europe, in the Middle East, not in the Middle East, sorry, here in Europe and in the West, in the UK, where we live in, we need to exercise our human right here. You can say what you want, but don't offend. Don't spread hate. You know who's inciting terrorism? Who's inciting extremism? It's statements like these. This is what's inciting problem. Because you're tapping with the emotions of 1.8 million Muslims, 1.8 billion Muslims.
Yep.
It's like you sometimes I wonder, is it planned? Are they really wanting to stoke the fire inside us?
Provocation, that's what it is. They just provoke.
Provoking.
Yeah.
You're right. That's a good word. It's provoking us. It's provoking a reaction out of us. And you know how we should react to this? The way the Prophet ﷺ reacted. We don't react, fire with fire. We react with character. You can't, you can't offend us. How, the way whatever you say about the Prophet ﷺ, our belief of him is so great that you can't even come equal to that.
Of course. Not giving them that amiyat.
Don't give them that importance. They want that importance. Don't give them that importance. You're right. So this is something that's very important. This is something that we need to learn. We need to go away. We need to learn our rights. What is Islamophobia? The rise of Islamophobia, the rise of anti-Islam, hate crimes against Islam, hate speech against Islam. All of these things. Become activists. Bring a change in yourself, in your communities. Choose wisely who you want to represent, you, and be your voice in the political sphere, in the entertainment industry, in the sporting industry, in all of these aspects. It's very important. And we should celebrate the achievements of our Muslim figures in the past,
Of course.
the present. These are people who have done immense work for us. And on that note, I'm going to say to you guys, any final words you want to share? Because we don't want to really drag this podcast on too long.
No, not too long.
So,
Yeah,
any final words, Was?
Finally, look, I just want to say to everyone, and a reminder to myself as well, that freedom of speech has its own importance for each different person and for each different community. Some people it's in their favor, some people it's not in their favor. I can speak from my perspective that it's not always in our favor, but what you've got to remember is your own character. If you go to America and you speak to a black person there, they'll tell you that no matter, it doesn't matter if slavery ended in the 40s and the 50s, they're still facing it through the systems today. But the point comes down to this, that look, you are responsible for yourself and you're a representative of the culture or the religion that you belong to. So, just always keep that in mind, always keep calm, cool and collected, and just do dua and, work towards that cause in a peaceful and positive manner.
Yeah,
Didi, any last words?
Yeah, I just like to say...
Everyone wants you to speak, so let's give you the mic.
Hassan,
Hassan, I think, is my cousin.
Yeah.
I honestly think it's him. I think he's
He's
not
got a
there and he's just
hashtag
spamming.
Didi for president, let Didi talk, free my people.
You know, it has to be his cousin, innit? It wasn't an outsider.
I planted him in there.
It has to be his
got
own
him
cousin, innit?
I did it. No, I was just going to say, I hope
His
everyone
best friend's
enjoyed
brother.
That's one.
I hope everyone enjoyed the conversation, took something away from it. Very productive. And like, share, subscribe.
And let them know if they want to watch this back where they can watch it.
Yeah, Al Hikam Media.
Guys, if you guys, obviously it's on Al Hikam Media right now. If it does get taken down, then it will be available on Let's Talk with IMAH podcast, this channel. So it's a YouTube channel. Please, our media team will put the link in now. Subscribe to that channel. Share it, please. If you enjoy these podcasts, please continue to watch them. We are discussing whether to increase the volume of podcasts that we do weekly from 1 to 2 now. And inshallah, we're going to have some interesting topics. We might be even starting a discussion on football, on sports, and all sorts of topics. And there's a lot of taboo subjects like drugs, alcohol, gambling, drug dealing,
Forced
marriages, marriage, finding a spouse. All of these sort of topics are podcasts and discussions that we're going to have on this podcast, on this platform. Let's Talk with IMAH. So please subscribe, please support the work, support the movement, help us grow. And like I said, there's only one Joe Rogan who's on this level, but we are out to get him.
All the
probably.
way to the top.
But all the way to the top, we're going to carry on.
And remember everything we talked about, support the cause.
Yeah, and end of the day, it's freedom of speech. We have the right to say what we want. But if you have any better word than the word freedom,